Thanks for having me up in the West Midlands. It's great that Andrew and I could come all the way up here and see and meet so many new faces. I think well, let me see if this is working. Oh no, there you go. What I wanted to do today is just talk a little bit about Islington's journey through the creation of our Parks for Health strategy. The strategy was developed through funding that we received through the Future Parks Accelerator program, which was funded by the National Heritage Lottery Fund, the National Trust, and I think we had some funding from the Ministry for Housing as well. So thank you for that. What that funding did is it gave us the ability to have the headspace and the resources to really step back and look at how we wanted to reframe our parks to make them more resilient and sustainable for the future. And I think that's a really key ambition for all of us here, is because we all are under those funding pressures. We all know the challenges we're going to have with regards to retaining those budgets that we have, and how do we make ourselves relevant? How do we make ourselves that key service? And I think through some of the talks we've received already today, everyone understands that we are the park sector is an integral part in the health of your local communities, and particularly in somewhere like Islington, which has the second least amount of open space anywhere in the country. Those spaces we have are absolutely vital. And from Islington's point of view, we wanted to go out and look at, well, how can we really get buy-in for that and sign up from our members, from our community, from our partners, from our other services to really maximize those health and wellbeing outcomes and sustain it going forward. And just to say, this was a joint project between Camden and Islington, and we actually have a joint Parks for Health strategy, because at the time of starting this project, we actually had a combined public health service across both boroughs, and they bought into it, and they were a key partner in the delivery of this, which was really, really good, because it got us that really strong profile across the council. Okay. So very quickly, because I do realize we've only got about 15 minutes today, it's just trying to talk you through the journey we took from vision to strategy. Sorry. So as we said, we had an opportunity to really take a step back and think about what we wanted from a Parks for Health strategy. And working with our community and our partners, we came up with a vision for what we felt Parks for Health actually represented. And very simply, we wanted our spaces to be there for the community, where everyone feels welcome, and where parks were seen as a space for as health assets, as opposed to just nice to haves. And we really were able to get that buy-in from the community. And everyone sort of, when they stepped back and we had conversations with people, they went, yes, actually, that's such a good point. And I have to say, apart from all the negatives we had with COVID, one of the big things it did for our sector was really highlighted the value of our parks and open spaces. So we have that little bug to thank for that. And I think after COVID came out, because this project started in July 2019, so it was developed pretty much over COVID. And that real understanding gave us the drive behind and the opportunity to really spread that message quite strongly across our organisation. What we did was we looked at the different health priorities we wanted to focus on. And those have been mentioned today, so I'm not going to go over those again. And we wanted to look at our priority groups as well. So how do we use the resources we have to try and maximize those health and wellbeing outcomes for people who mostly need it? Because what we found is that actually most of the people using our parks and open spaces were traditional people who would come in with their kids maybe, or go for a run. But actually those people who had health conditions, who maybe were socially isolated, that would actually benefit the most from a very cost-effective treatment, prevention, early intervention of health conditions. How do we get them in? And what we did through this strategy was look at how we tailored our service and our ways of working to maximize reaching those groups and getting them in. And I'm going to go a little off topic here and talk, probably that doesn't reflect what's on the slides, but what we did was we worked with different partner groups who had access to those communities that were struggling. So Age UK, for interest's sake, we worked with the Whittington Health Trust. We worked with the council's Bright Start team, who worked with families from socially inactive family backgrounds that we needed to get into our space. But traditionally, as a park service, we couldn't go out and reach those groups effectively. So what we did was we worked with those groups to bring them into our parks, to access their different user groups. We did joint programs with them. We did one of our really successful events was an intergenerational events program. We worked with Age UK, Whittington Health, Bright Start, and we created, using our parks facilities, basically a series of events funded by those different groups, where those organizations supported their users into the parks in the first instance. And what we found is that first instance took a lot of coordination, work, encouragement to get the people in. But once they were in, they went, well, when's the next one? How can we come back? And I always remember one of the key stories we had that drove our agenda was there was a Friends of Group chair. She started off as someone who was going to her GP 3-4 times a week, whole series of medication, basically agoraphobic. And her friend dragged her off to a gardening group at her local park. And she started off the first couple of times that she could probably do half an hour of work, couldn't really do much. Built it up, started getting more engaged. She now virtually never goes to a GP, virtually off all her medication. She's the chair of the Friends of Group and a driving partner. And that just underpins the value of that parks can bring just from creating that social environment. What we have done, though, is we formalized a series of green social prescribing programs with local GPs and through the link workers, who helpfully are delivered through our Age UK organization. Last year, we had 480 direct referrals into programs in parks through green social prescribing. We've got 21 certified green social prescribing offers in our parks, which are free access to people. And this certification is just a series of checklists to show that to the link workers that these groups can actually take people with complex, potentially medical health conditions, maybe some mental health problems as well, into a safe environment where they can get access to our parks. What we also learned is, as a park service, that we aren't always the best people to deliver activities and outcomes. We need to use those different organizations that we have around us. So again, I'll take an example. We used our Bright Start team who work with under fives. They wanted to do outdoor stay and play sessions in our parks. We could have put on our rangers to go and support them, but actually we weren't best placed to do that. We couldn't hit the volumes of people because of our limited funding. So we actually enabled them to get trained up as forest school practitioners. We provided them the facilities. We created the natural environments for them. Now they deliver activities to over 3,000 children in Islington every year in our parks. And that's something that we as a park service could never have achieved. But by enabling it, we become a stronger service. We are seen as more relevant. Underpinning this, the strategy, we created a delivery plan for 5 years that allowed us to sort of highlight the series of actions that we wanted to deliver. The delivery plans also were underpinned by a series of measurements, and that gave sort of members, senior leaders, some confidence that we actually had a plan to implement the policy, and we were able to monitor and track the progress, which I think is really important. What was really interesting as well is through the creation of the policy document, we had to go through all the usual bells and whistles and checks that you have to go through in cabinets and all the other bits. But what that did for us as a park service is it got us exposure to all levels of the organization. It got us to all different parts of the service, all different services. And after I presented to our corporate management board and our joint board, I got an invite to virtually every single management team across the council and all the different departments, just to sort of talk about what we're trying to do and how they could support us. And I think that profile has helped protect our park services through the latest round of cuts. We did have to change our workforce. We looked at part of this process about how we had what our workforce needed to look like, what skills and services we needed. We created a Parks for Health partnership manager to oversee our our delivery of the action plan, but also just to maintain and foster those partnerships we developed through the Parks for Health program. A really key role we created was a dedicated communications officer. So we took money away from some of our other services, cut back on 1 or 2 gardeners, to actually create a comms manager, because we saw that it was so important to get that message out, to be able to target those groups that we aren't reaching effectively, to make sure we are raising the profile of our park service, not with members, with colleagues, with partners, and with the community, to really highlight those health and wellbeing benefits. And that I have to say has been one of our key successes. And it's something that's really driven up our profile and made sure that when people are thinking about cutting our service, they know all the positive outcomes that we're achieving, and it makes it very, very difficult for them. We're also looking at reshaping our gardening offer, particularly around sort of changing our sort of traditional gardeners into more community-based gardeners. And we've created a test model for that within our housing community team. They funded a new community gardening team that is now working on estates to drive up the standards and work with our residents. That team now has gone from initially 3 staff, it's now at 6. They keep funding it because they are getting some real positive outcomes with the residents and their estates. And we're going to use the learning from that to actually try and move that into the parks model and trying to recruit the skill sets of people that we need to really drive that forward. And it's interesting. We went from we would like a skilled gardener to we'd like a skilled community gardener. And what it did, it opened up a whole different group of people who would want to come and work with those community skills as opposed to just being an amenity gardener. And it's been really, really positive. I'm going to skip over this just because I'm conscious of time. As I said, a key part of our journey was about developing those partnerships and opening up and sustaining those links. We worked with 53 different VCS organizations. We worked with our 36 Friends of Parks groups, 9 GP practices, and 7 local prescribing organizations. All of which, not all of which, but a good amount of which we never engaged with before, never spoken to, hadn't realized the value of parks in delivering their outcomes. They now are engaged. They are now delivering actions themselves. They are now trumpeting our service, and that's all helping protect us from cuts. Just a couple of sort of outcomes that we've achieved. As I said, we've delivered about 196 health and wellbeing events ourselves in parks through our ranger service. But that just the next one, we had about 485 green social prescribing referrals. The key one is we had 285 health and wellbeing activities delivered by other organizations. And that's really, really shows that there's value in others doing stuff. I'm going to end it there and just say that I think if you're thinking of going down this journey, I would really recommend it. Formalizing within your organization the value of parks and open spaces and its value in terms of health delivery is a really key message that resonates across all different teams within the borough and can really help protect your park services and that funding coming in. I'm just going to hand you over to Andrew, who's going to talk a little bit about our journey with regards to sustainability and greening our fleet. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot for inviting us. Thanks, Chris and Alison and everyone else. Firstly, if it's all right with everyone, I just want to take a photo of the full room because my wife often doesn't believe me that a lot of people like parks like I do. So just to prove it's not that abnormal. Okay, so I'm just going to speak kind of briefly about kind of operationally on the ground what we do to kind of try and meet some of our targets that we have for net zero and making things a bit more efficient, a bit more green. Islington is a small borough. Those of you who don't know, it's central London, very urban. There are a lot of people there. There's a lot of traffic. It's only about 6 square miles. And there are a lot of kind of logistical challenges for us. We don't have any big parks. Our biggest park is about 11.5 hectare. We have 140, small parks throughout the borough. and getting teams and equipment from site to site is a logistical challenge. Um, so we've had to change our ways of working slightly. We're changing the kind of some of the vehicles we're using, the equipment. So I was just going to talk briefly about some of the vehicles that we use. We've got these electric cargo bikes now. So we've got a couple. We've only got two of them. We use them for different reasons. That cage one there, we use for our static litter team. So that has what the guy does, he goes around, he does his litter around using that caged vehicle. He drops off the bags in a designated place so that the wagon don't need to go around so many parks. So it reduces the emissions significantly. It's worked really well. So we're probably, we're going to look at how we can increase our fleet of that. The other one with the box, that's our ranger team uses that. So that is they deliver kind of volunteer sessions, events, activities. So they carry tools in their equipment for events, etc. Again, it's kind of revolutionised the way that we work. Taking vehicles off of the road. And there is a photo about somewhere with Chris on one of them. I couldn't find it, but he might share it one day, who knows. But we've got to change our equipment, battery operated. There are challenges to that. We use steel stuff. We've tried out a lot of different manufacturers, and at the moment, that's the one that kind of we prefer. There are, I'm sure a lot of you using this stuff now. There's some of the stuff we find all right. So some of the hedge cutters, blowers, and that. All right, some of the mowers, pedestrian mowers, they're okay, but we do find they do struggle a bit sometimes, and we yet to find a kind of ride on that kind of meets our needs. Like I say, a lot of our time is spent moving between sites, so as well as kind of using the ride on to cut the grass, it also needs to get from site to site, which is a bit of it uses battery power, and it can be a bit difficult sometimes. An MEV cargo van. This is our newest addition. We have one of these for our community gardening team. Again, they at the moment it's brand new. They've only had it a couple of weeks, so I can't give a huge amount of feedback. But they like using it. It's taken a flatbed tipper off the road. It's got the difference between that and the cargo bike is this one you do need a full driving license. It can't go in the bus lanes and all that. So it's a bit more like a standard van, but it's again taking those emissions away. We've got a lot of low traffic neighbourhoods, so in Islington, so it means we can't drive around that kind of efficiently. So the vehicle, not this one, but the cargo bike and this one, that's Terry on his bike. Terry is one of our grounds maintenance supervisors. Like I said before, we've had to kind of adapt our ways of working. His job supervising grounds maintenance team, he's going from site to site. The bike has made him a lot more efficient. He's kind of old school. He's been with us for over 25 years. Some of the challenges around the electric bikes is kind of staff attitude, people who want to use them or not. Cycling in London ain't for everyone. It's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but it's makes our kind of some of our job roles is just more efficient just because you can't get anywhere nowadays. And then the other kind of big change that we're kind of doing is trying to move our teams away from the main depot. So having satellite teams based in kind of small park huts. At the moment, what we're doing is we've kind of trialled it in one of our parks called Duncan Terrace Gardens. We've got a team of 3 who are based out of there now. So instead of in the morning going to the main depot, they're going straight to that park. We've got some of the kit down there, which they, take out the hut. So there's limited moving stuff around for them. They're maintaining that park as well as the local parks within a kind of 10-minute walking distance. It's had a hugely positive impact on the park, the community, and also the staff. They're happier in their jobs. There's a lot of less downtime because there's kind of a minimum of an hour a day which was lost travelling between the depot and the park. That is now all work time. And, you know, there's a list of stuff there which is of benefit and worked really well. And that's it from me. Thank you very much and good night.